Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, text number 7 through 12. Let's see which one's on the board. Number 12 is on the board? Okay, so I'll read 7 through 11 by myself, and then we'll go to 12 together. Okay? Atastwameka bhutanam Sheshvaranam Adishvara Shasta Dandodoro Nrinam Subhau Subha Vivechana. The Supreme Judge may be one, not many. It was our understanding that you are that Supreme Judge, and that you have jurisdiction even over the demigods. Our impression was that you are the master of all living entities, the supreme authority who discriminates between the pious and impious activities of all human beings. So it looks like the Yamadutas are in a little bit of illusion here, aren't they? Okay. Next, text number 8. Tasya te vihito dando daloke vartate duna chatubir adbhutai siddhar agyate vipralambita. Translation. But now we see that the punishment ordained under your authority is no longer effective, since your order has been transgressed by 4 wonderful and perfect persons. Purport. The Yamadutas had been under the impression that Yamaraj was the only person in charge of administering justice. They were fully confident that no one could counteract his judgments. But now, to their surprise, his order had been violated by the 4 wonderful persons from Siddhaloka. Okay. Text 9. Niyamanang tavadeshad asmabir yatana grihan vyamochayam patakinam chitva pasan prasyate. We were bringing the most sinful Ajamil toward the hellish planets, following your order, when those beautiful persons from Siddhaloka forcibly cut the knots of the ropes with which we were arresting him. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that the Yamadutas wanted to bring the Vishnudutas before Yamaraj. If Yamaraj could then have punished the Vishnudutas, the Yamadutas would have been satisfied. Text 10. Tang ste viditumits chamo yadino manyase shamam narayanate yabirhite mabar it yayur tutam. As soon as the sinful Ajamil uttered the name Narayan, these 4 beautiful men immediately arrived and reassured him, saying, "Do not fear, do not fear." We wish to know about them from your lordship. If you think we are able to understand them, kindly describe who they are. Purport. The order carriers of Yamaraj, being very much aggrieved because of their defeat by the 4 Vishnudutas, wanted to bring them before Yamaraj and, if possible, punish them. Otherwise, they desired to commit suicide. Before pursuing either course, however, they wanted to know about the Vishnudutas from Yamaraj, who is also omniscient. Text 11. Shri Badarayanirvacha iti tideva saprashta praja sangyam mano yama prita swadutan pratyaha svadan padam bhujam hare. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, thus having been questioned, Lord Yamaraj, the controller of the living entities, was very pleased with his order carriers because of hearing from them the holy name of Narayan. He remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and began to reply. Purport. Srila Yamaraj, the supreme controller of the living entities in terms of their pious and impious activities, was very pleased with his servants because they had chanted the holy name of Narayan in his dominion. Yamaraj has to deal with men who are all sinful and who can hardly understand Narayan. Consequently, when his order carriers uttered the name of Narayan, he was extremely pleased, for he is also a Vaishnava. Okay, now we can chant this sloka together. Yama uvacha paro mad anyo jagatas tatu shash cha paro mad anyo jagatas tatu shash cha Otang protang patavad yatra vishvam otang protang patavad yatra vishvam yad angshato asya stiti janma nasha yadang satosya stiti janmanasa nasi otavad yasya vashe cha loka nasyotavad yasya vashe cha loka Yamuvacha Padomadanyo Jagatas Tatushascha Otam Protam Pattavajatra Vishvam Yadang Satosya Stiti Janmanasa Nasyotavad yasya vase chaloka Yamuvacha Paromad anyo jagatas tatushascha Otam protam pattavad yatra vishvam Yad angsatosya stiti janmanasa Nasyotavad yasya vase chaloka Mataji's? Yamovacha. One more person? Yama Uvacha. Yamaraj replied, Para, superior, Mat, than me. Anya, another, Jagata, of all moving things. Tatusha, of non-moving things. Cha, and. Otam, crosswise. Protam, lengthwise. Patavat, like a woven cloth. Yatra, in whom? Vishvam, the cosmic manifestation. Yat, of whom? Angshata, from the partial expansions. Asya, of this universe. Sthiti, the maintenance. Janma, the creation. Nasha, the annihilation. Nasi, in the nose. Otavat, like the rope. Yasya, of whom? Vashe, under the control. Cha, and. Loka, the whole creation. Translation. Yamaraj said, My dear servants, you have accepted me as a supreme, but factually I am not. Above me and above all the other demigods, including Indra and Chandra, is the one supreme master and controller. The partial manifestations of his personality are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, who are in charge of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this universe. He is like the two threads that form the length and breadth of a woven cloth. The entire world is controlled by him, just as a bull is controlled by a rope in its nose. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The order carriers of Yamaraj suspected that there was a ruler even above Yamaraj. To eradicate their doubts, Yamaraj immediately replied, Yes, there is one supreme controller above everything. Unquote. Yamaraj is in charge of some of the moving living entities, namely the human beings. But the animals who also move are not under his control. Only human beings have consciousness of right and wrong, and among them only those who perform sinful activities come under the control of Yamaraj. Therefore, although Yamaraj is a controller, he is only a departmental controller of a few living entities. There are other demigods who control many other departments, but above them all is one supreme controller, Krishna. Isvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The supreme controller is Krishna. Others who control their own departments in the affairs of the universe are insignificant in comparison to Krishna, the supreme controller. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:7, Matak padataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya. My dear Dhananjay Arjun, no one is superior to me. Therefore Yamaraj immediately cleared away the doubts of his assistants, the Yamadutas, by confirming that there is a supreme controller above all others. Srila Madhvacharya explains that the words Otam Protam refer to the cause of all causes. The Supreme Lord is both vertical and horizontal to the cosmic manifestation. This is confirmed by the following verse from the Skanda Purana. Yata Kanta Pata Sutra Ota Protastitsa Stita Evang Vishnav Idam Vishvam Otang Protam Tasangstitam. Like the two threads, horizontal and vertical, of which a quilt is manufactured, Lord Vishnu is situated as the vertical and horizontal cause of the cosmic manifestation. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastabhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Pastachade Satarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So to give a Srimad Bhagavatam class in Mayapur is very special. I'm sure many of you have given regular Bhagavatam classes at different temples all over the world. Just like where I'm from, in North Carolina, we would, sometime back when I was living there, we would have regular Srimad Bhagavatam classes. And maybe 4 or 5 of us were giving class. Every day there'd be a class, and it wasn't scheduled. We just kind of like work it out among, okay, who's giving class today? Okay, you give class today, like that. And sometimes they say, ask me. Okay, I'll give class today, no problem. And then I give a class without studying, without being aware of what the shloka is, without, any idea before I sat on the, Vyasa-san, what I was going to speak. And sometimes, a good class comes out. And here in Mayapur, you're giving some advance notice. And so then, okay, there's going to be like, 50 to 100 people in the audience, and there's going to be maybe 100 watching on television. So I better, study and, really try to do well. I don't want to look like a fool up here. So you'll have a game plan. This is my game plan, okay? I wrote down some things that I wanted to say, and it's a plan. But you want to know how to make Krishna laugh? Tell him your plan. And he will laugh at you. Because, Isvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. He is the supreme controller. And Krishna is within your heart. Sarvasya Taham Hridi Sanibhisto. He is there. Matak Smitir Jnanam Apo Hanangcha. He will give you remembrance. He will give you knowledge. And He will give you forgetfulness if you deserve to be. So how do you get this forgetfulness? Generally, one way you deserve forgetfulness is by pride. If you are so thinking you're such a good Bhagavatam speaker and you're going to be able to get up there and, you've planned it out so nicely, a very good game plan, and you're going to win the game. And you're going to, just win over the whole audience and impress everybody before you. Krishna may just decide, well, I think this devotee here needs to learn a little bit of a lesson. And, that devotee may just start stumbling over his words and, forget what he was supposed to do and say and have so much difficulty. The material world is a very precarious place. Now, we have our plans, and Krishna has his. And Krishna's plan reigns supreme. So, Yamaraj, in the purport, he is called omniscient, because he's in direct touch with the super soul. And there's a lot of allusion in these slokas I just read. And the Yamadutas were in a lot of illusion. They were, for one thing, they said that you're the supreme controller. There's no one above you. You have the jurisdiction over all living entities. This is so far from the truth. I mean, only human beings, those in the human form of life, that are sinful, that Yamaraj have jurisdiction. Now, this is a very minority of the living entities. I mean, how many ants are there? How many demigods are there? How many animals? How many birds? How many insects? How many germs? I mean, the human beings, and also only on this planet Earth. This is the place where the living entities generate karma. The lower planets, you're burning off the karma of your sinful activities that you performed on Earth. And in the heavenly planets, you're burning off the pious activities that you performed on Earth. So this Earth planet, the living entities in the human form, only on this Earth planet and in those ones that are sinful, does Yamaraj have jurisdiction over. Now, Yamaraj also had some illusion. He had ordered those Yamadutas, arrest Ajamil, go, do it. And they were going for it. And they had done this many, many times, they've, performed, this is their duty, and they've been successful. Never was there a time when they had come back unsuccessful in, bringing a sinful living entity to Yamaraj in the past. But this time, all of a sudden, 4 very beautiful and powerful living entities stop. You cannot arrest him. And they were powerless. in overcoming these personalities. And they said they're from Siddhaloka. Boy, again, an illusion. They're from Vaikuntha. And they have, and they go to Yamaraj and say, they just chanted this name of Narayan. And all of a sudden, these four beautiful living entities, very powerful, showed up on the scene and stopped us from taking him. So, and it's described in the purport that they wanted to not only take a Jamil, but take these four, Vishnu Dutas to Yamaraj for punishment also. But little do they know that that personality that they were going to arrest was actually their cause for liberation themselves. For they heard the name of Narayan from a Jamil. So things happen in this world that, very unexpectedly. And so in this pastime, it goes to show, the Yamadutas had their plan. They're going to go get this sinful living entity, and they're going to bring him back to Yamaraj, as they always do. But, excuse me, I should turn off my phone, shouldn't I? Hey Govinda, I'm giving Srimad Bhagavatam class right now. I can't talk to you right now. I'll call you later. Okay, everybody, turn off your cell phones. I'll do it myself also. Okay. So, where was I at? See, Krishna is he's the source of all remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. My son, he just called, so that's a cause of major distraction. What?
Unexpected.
Yeah, just like this phone call. Here I had a game plan, I knew what I was going to say next, and then I get a phone call, and I completely forgot. So things do happen in this world, and we should be aware of that, and we should kind of be flexible and not expect so much out of this place, because everyone's so busy making plans. But what are they busy making plans for? They're making plans for eating, a lot of planning for eating. I mean, how many cookbooks, how many, cooks, they have their plans for preparations. Eating, sleeping. Some planning goes into sleeping also. Like, hey, listen, I want my own room. I don't want to sleep with anybody else, because then when I sleep by myself, I have my own program and I'm peaceful. But sometimes, you have a nightmare and you get woken up in a very fearful way from your sleep. That wasn't your plan. That's sleeping. Mating. A lot of planning goes into mating. There's a lot of, everyone has their aspirations for pleasure, especially in relationship to this. But little do they know, or actually they do know, but the illusory energy covers them over, that so many times, living entities, they have some plan, they have some, aspiration for a certain very attractive living entity they want, specifically for this purpose, and they get it. But many times, later on, down the road, they become the worst enemies. Whereas one time, you were just head over heels, so to speak, in American terms, for this living entity, thinking that you'll be able to enjoy unlimited pleasure for an unlimited amount of time, to an unlimited degree. But just in a few years, you're filing for a divorce. And it's very painful, and you just cannot stand this person anymore. So a lot of times our plans are foiled. Okay, that's mating. Now defending. A lot of planning goes into defending in this world. I mean, the American government spends like 75%, I'm not exactly sure, it might even be more than that, in defense. I mean, so much fear in this world. And so, countries, they're so worried that, some other country is going to come and try to take over their country and put their system and government in place instead of theirs. And their system of government is perfect. It's, democracy, come on. That's the way to go in this world today. And if you don't want to follow democracy, watch out for the American army. Because they're going to come in and they're going to cause you some trouble. But now, the American, isn't as powerful as it used to be. And they're not so, don't have jurisdiction over everybody. Although they want to, they've failed many times. They failed in Vietnam. They've failed in Iraq. They're failing in Afghanistan. I mean, the American army is getting defeated left and right. So American, are starting to say, okay, so Obama now, he made friends with Cuba, and they're a communist. Whereas previous, if, you're an American, hate, communist is enemy number one. So things change in this world. Very unexpected things happen. And the Yamadutas, they came upon a very unexpected situation. And they flipped out, in American terms. They just couldn't handle it. They were practically on the verge of suicide, as stated in the purport. Either they wanted Yamaraj to somehow or other arrange for them, given the potency, so they could go arrest these Vishnudutas and bring them to him for punishment for what they did, or they were ready for suicide. And so there's some authority issues going on here. I mean, the Yamadutas, they're on the verge of becoming Ritviks, practically speaking. It's like, hey, I think I'm going to accept Manu is my spiritual master from now on, even though, he's not within their vision. They just say, well, I follow Manu Samhita, and, we know right from wrong, and Manu Samhita is the laws of mankind, and, you failed us, Yamaraj. We're no longer your disciples. We're the disciples of Manu. So there's a, authority problem. So the authority, as told by Yamaraj, he was very happy to hear his bewildered followers, chanting the name of Narayan. He was ecstatic. He wasn't worried that, his followers are losing faith in him and they're about to abandon ship. He heard the name of Narayan from them, and he was totally pleased, and then he started preaching to them. Say, hey, you guys, don't understand. I'm just a insignificant living entity, and I have jurisdiction over only sinful living entities on this from the planet Earth. And there's a supreme controller above me, and his name is Krishna. And he said this immediately. He is a Mahajan. So Yamaraj, he's, as described in the purport, he's omniscient. So why didn't he know that this Ajamil was going to chant the name of Narayan and stop his followers from not giving the order to go get this simple living entity? Not only that, but Ajamil had been chanting the holy name of Narayan ever since he named his son Narayan, right when he was born. You know, I mean, my son just called me. He's going to an Ayurvedic doctor near Vrindavan. And I've been saying Govinda for, 20 years. Calling my son's name, Govinda, 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 all the time. That's the holy name of Govinda. That's my son's name also, but he's not present in that vibration, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in that sound vibration. So, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, I don't have to see Yamaraj. I don't have to see the Yamadutas. I mean, it's not that I'm chanting the name of my son because, I want to get free from the reactions of my previous sinful activities, and then I want to continue committing sinful activities, and then I can chant the name of my son, so then I don't have to suffer for it. It doesn't come into my mind. So therefore, according to Shastra, I don't have to see the Yamadutas. So obviously, Yamaraj, he made a mistake. And who is Yamaraj? He is a Mahajan. Now, there's been other pure devotees who have made mistakes. I mean, Arjuna, wow, he was like, Krishna, he called him a fool. And who is Arjuna? He's a eternal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this happens. Pure devotees make mistakes under the jurisdiction of the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes. And lessons get learned from these mistakes. And this section of Srimad Bhagavatam is being delineated because Yamaraj made a mistake. So this whole pastime is there for us to hear how the holy name, by chanting the holy name, you get free from more sins just one time chanting it, not even in a pure way, than you can commit in like 1,000,000 lifetimes. So this is the benefits of Yamaraj committing a mistake. So instead of these Yamadutas, like, about ready to, to give up their authority, they should, look at the bright side and say, hey, they just chanted the holy name of Narayan. And, they don't have to, be ugly, horrible-looking living entities in their next life and, go after sinful living entities because they've chanted the holy name of Narayan. Or, look at the bright side of things. Someone makes a mistake, and, there's a saying, we learn from our mistakes. And we do not only learn from our mistakes, but we learn from the mistakes of others. And if we learn something, especially something spiritual, from another person's mistakes, we can thank that person for making a mistake. Because we have learned a very, very valuable lesson from them making a mistake. I mean, Arjuna made a huge mistake. You know, he was, ready to go to the forest and live by begging and not, fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, because he was mistakenly thinking that, hey, Bhisma's my grandfather, Dronacharya is my martial guru. But he was identifying Bhisma with his body, his material body, and Dronacharya with his material body. And this paved the way for Krishna to give a whole discourse on who is Dronacharya, who is Bhisma, who is, Kripacharya. And by the way, in cultured society, someone may be your enemy, but then they can, after a while, become your friend. Do you know what happened after the battle of Kurukshetra? What happened with Kripacharya? Does anybody know? He was appointed by Maharaj Yudhisthira as their priest, their Brahmana priest, Kripacharya. And what did Kripacharya do right at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra? He assisted Ashvatthama in beheading the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, which included one of Maharaj Yudhisthira's, his son. He made sure that no one would come and interfere with this act. And then later, he's appointed the priest of the Pandavas. This is a great lesson to us in forgiveness. And so many times in the Battle of Kurukshetra, there were so many rules broken, and this was just one of them. And the Pandavas also broke some rules. I mean, Bhima, he, basically won the Battle of Kurukshetra by breaking a rule. He struck Duryodhana below the waist with his club and broke his thigh. I mean, he broke it heavily. So that, generally speaking, you don't die from a broken thigh. But if you get a broken thigh from Bhima, you are going to die. And Duryodhana was, a testimony to this act. So these Yamadutas, they've learned a great lesson, and through the mistake of their leader. And we can get so many lessons also from Yamaraja's mistake, and we can learn from our mistakes. And if we chant the holy name, which we all are doing regularly, hopefully, then we are actually at the same point right now that Ajamil was at after he was rescued by the Vishnu Dutas. We are no longer going to see the Yamadutas. We don't have to worry about that. So what we have to do is do what Ajamil did. He took off to Hardwar to very sincerely practice spiritual life. Now, its details aren't given exactly what he did, as far as what his sadhana practices were, but the end result was there, that the Vishnu airplane came, and those Vishnu Dutas came to him again, and after he had actually purified himself sufficiently, they took him to Vaikuntha. So we are at that same junction in our lives, and we should be very thankful for some personalities that have facilitated this for us. Just like Ajamil is, unlimitedly thankful to the Vishnu Dutas. For, my God, it's like the Yamadutas are coming to a fearful, ugly and powerful, and here he's so helpless, there's no way he's going to overcome the Yamadutas. There's no way. It hasn't ever happened before. And then these 4 living entities came and rescued him. How much gratitude does Ajamil have for them? So similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he came, and without him, none of us would be in this room. None of us. We're all, products of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And he came to the Western world to spread Krishna consciousness with great austerity and sacrifice. Because he simply wanted to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So this is the power of disciplic succession. And even in the earlier in this canto, first of all, I'm going over time. Okay, I'll be quick now. Earlier in this canto, Sukadeva Goswami, he tested Maharaj Parikshit. And, how do you make it so you don't go to hell? Because Maharaj Parikshit asked the question, what can we do so that the living entities, they don't go to hell? Because the 5th canto at the end was all about the hellish planets. And he said, you have to do atonement. And then Maharaj Parikshit said, hey man, this isn't happening. We're not gonna, I've seen this, I'm a king, I've punished, put people in jail, and then they come out of jail and do the same thing again. Forget this isn't right, give me a better answer. And Sukadeva Goswami says, yes, I was testing you. So he looked like he made a mistake, Sukadeva Goswami. But he was testing his disciple to see if he was on his toes. And he was right, And he said, my dear king, if a simple person engages in the service of a bona fide devotee of the Lord and thus learns how to dedicate his life under the lotus feet of Krishna, he can be completely purified. One cannot be purified merely by undergoing austerity, penance, brahmachari, and the other methods of atonement I have previously described. So brahmachari is not enough, although it's very, very helpful. You have to do brahmachari under the instructions in a humble way of a spiritual master. Otherwise, what happens? You become proud. What happens if you undergo austerities and get mystic powers? You become proud. You think you're all powerful. So these things, if you do them and become purified, so-called, by brahmacharya, you become very powerful. By austerities, you become very powerful. penance, Hiranyakashipu became very powerful. But they became so demoniacally powerful, thinking that they're God themselves. So if you do these things in a humble way, under the order of a spiritual master, then you become unlimitedly powerful in a humble way. So any questions or comments? I think I went over time. I'm very sorry.
I have a question.
Okay. What's in America they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Okay, Mataji. How can I serve you?
I don't think there's a microphone. I don't know for everyone.
Can someone give her the microphone? I'm getting old. My hearing in this room has very bad acoustics and okay.
And my question is, it was a very interesting part. First of all, thank you very much for that engaging class. It was very wonderful. Thank you so much. My question... It
didn't go according to my plan. I didn't say anything.
In fact, I thought you were going to say when you started that disclaimer at the beginning of your class, I thought you were going to say that you thought it was another verse, which sometimes happens. My question is, Prabhupada explains in the purport that Yamaraj has influence over the sinful living entities. He makes the decision of where they will go. I understand with animals that if a cow, a monkey, a tiger, at the end of their life, they will take birth as a human being. But who decides the transmigration or the next destination of all the other non-humans?
It's under the jurisdiction of some demigod. There's like, how many demigods are there? 33 million. I don't know the name of the particular demigod, but believe me, it's one of them.
Right. It was just interesting because I hadn't really noticed that before in the purport.
Yeah. Yamaraj is only, his jurisdiction is over the sinful living entities. And cows, monkeys, and tigers or lions. Sometimes I hear tigers, sometimes lions. I don't know which one it is for sure, but one of the two, or maybe both. The monkeys become living entities in the mode of ignorance. The tigers or lions, or maybe both, become living entities in the mode of passion. And cows become living entities in the mode of goodness. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, Gita Nagari, this is always a challenge.
Don't be afraid.
Okay. I have no fear.
You were saying that Yamaraj has jurisdiction over the sinful entities, sinful human beings. So I'm just asking you, who in this world is sinful?
Those who have not heard,
Jurisdiction over all?
yeah, those who have not heard or chanted the holy name of Narayan, Krishna, Govinda, and that's actually becoming quite not that many. Even just, hearing the Hari Nam, taking prasadam, touching Srila Prabhupada's books, just touching them. This is, we're not such a potent, Krishna is very potent. And in any way, shape, or form that a living entity comes in contact with Krishna, his spiritual life is started or continued from where he left off previously, one of the two. And that guarantees Neha brikama nasosti patavayona vidite swapamapya siddharma satrate mahato bayat. The greatest fear is removed. And this greatest fear is these Yamadutas, by the way. They take you and they put you down. They're great wrestlers. There's no chance that they're going to lose against you unless the Vishnudutas come and interfere. Okay? Yes, Mataji. Oh, by the way, it is overtime. Anyone who wants to go home now and eat breakfast or Get to Bhakti Shastri class on time. You're welcome to go. I'm not offended. Everything's okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you for your lecture. You said that the Yamadutas are impious, but as far as I remember...
I made a mistake.
I just want to clarify this point because I remember...
Now we can learn from my mistake, okay? Yeah, they're not impious, actually. They are, as described by Bhaktivedanta Swami, they are from Pitriloka, and their ancestors have stopped giving them their offerings, and then because they don't have anything to eat, and their bodies, what used to be a beautiful body starts shriveling up and becoming ugly, and then they become qualified by this process of degeneration of their body to become Yamadutas, because Yamadutas by nature have to be very scary looking. And we become very scary looking too as we become old. And we shrivel up, and we get wrinkled. And these bodies actually, they become very unattractive also. Our bodies, the ones we are in right now, at this very moment. We become like Yamadutas also. Okay? Is that all right? Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srimad Prabhupada ki.
Just one quick question, Prabhu. The description of, is there an expanded description? This is kind of where all the